Really?
We do have a clicker either way, so.
Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
This is why we don't let them out.
If you don't mind going to the podium, it gives you better eye contact with all the members.
I know, but
That's what I did last, and I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
All right, great. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Hear you. Hit all the
Check,
checks.
check, check, check. Check, 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 check. You good? All right.
That's fine.
And let's do, if you don't mind, let's do.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Ooh, that microphone has a little echo to it. Appreciate you coming to the final meeting here of the Autonomous Driving Work Group. Thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in this and all the work that each and every one of you have put in over the last 2 years, towards this final work product. So again, just really looking forward to the discussion this afternoon and to a lot of the, particularly the final topic we have here, where we're going to go through the work group recommendations on some of the legislative options as we think about potential bills and things that we can consider in the 2027 General Assembly session. So again, just really want to appreciate all of you being here. We have a few administrative items that we need to go through, and so I'm going to turn it over to Josh Hessinga with VDOT to run us through those. Josh?
Thank you, Secretary Donahue. First thing we're going to do, since we are going to have a bunch of voting today, is we'll do a quick roll call of the work group members. So I'll start down this end and go around and then catch the online people. First, for the Virginia Department of Transportation, Mina Lockwood.
Here.
And for the State Police, Cobble.
Here.
Senator Diggs,
Here.
Senator Srinivasan.
Here.
We don't have Senator Bagby quite yet. Secretary Donahue, you're
Here.
here, of course. Delegate Reed,
Present.
Delegate Sewell,
Here.
and then moving to the folks online, the Department of Motor Vehicles, Patrick Harrison,
Here.
and Delegate Jason Ballard.
Present online.
Great, thank you. You do have a quorum in the room. So if we're going to move on first, we've got 3 sets of minutes to approve for the May 22nd, July 24th meetings that were here, and then the August 20th virtual meeting. All of those minutes were published online after those meetings and in the packet for today. If there's someone who wants to move them as a block, I think we can, but
So moved.
thank you.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And no, Josh, I'm abstaining.
And then Delegate Ballard and Patrick Harrison, what we'll do for the online voting is we'll call on you. So Delegate Ballard.
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved.
Well, thank you very much, Josh. So that brings us to the labor and workforce impact presentation. This is going to be done by the Knowledge Advisory Group. What we're targeting here is about 20 minutes of presentation and then give or take 10 minutes afterwards for question and answer. And just as a quick kind of reminder for folks, there was legislation passed in the 2025 General Assembly which established this work group. There was separate legislation passed during the 2026 General Assembly which added some additional things that they wanted us to consider. And so these will both be working towards report products that will come out later this fall, but just a quick reminder on the cadence there. And so I'd like to turn it over to the labor workforce impact folks. All right, Ms. Willard.
Yes, thank you. Trying out the technology here. There we go. All right, good afternoon. Thank you all so much. My name is Trina Willard, and I'm the founder of Knowledge Advisory Group, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Sandra Wright. And to begin, I would like to thank the Deputy Secretary Schewel, the Virginia Department of Transportation, and the members of the work group for inviting us to be with you this afternoon. In recent months, our company has been engaged to play a part in assisting to assess the labor impacts created by autonomous vehicles, to assist the work group address its charge under House Bills 1124 and 2726, and it's been our pleasure to assist with this project. Having a little bit of difficulty. Bear with me just a second. Okay, great. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. Now, some of you in the room today have supported or participated in our efforts, and we'd like to express our appreciation for your time and valuable input. Next slide. To give you a bit of info about the process, we first identified a group of relevant stakeholders, which included referrals from multiple sources, attendees at work group meetings, and some volunteers who would like to participate. And as dictated by the work group's defining statute, interviewees included stakeholders and representatives from the auto manufacturing industry and labor representatives from passenger and product carrier businesses. And you see that list here on this slide. It included rideshare and ride-hail drivers and companies, commercial truck drivers and trucking businesses, public transit workers and agencies, and AV manufacturers for passenger vehicles and commercial trucks. We secured 30 to 45-minute interviews with 24 organizations, and then we also conducted a roundtable discussion of 12 organizations this summer. Within a fairly compressed timeline to meet the work group's reporting deadline, participants were asked about potential concerns and benefits of AV legalization in Virginia, as well as suggestions to address as decisions move forward. The findings I will review are their opinions only and should be considered in combination with other research and findings brought before the work group rather than in isolation. Next slide, please. Please keep in mind that our focus was specifically on the aspect of the work group's scope regarding potential labor impacts of autonomous vehicles on Virginia. And first, I'll give you a broad overview of our high-level findings, and then I'll go into more depth by breaking down the feedback regarding the labor impacts of AV legalization for three primary groups. First, those representing passenger vehicles, including rideshare and ride-hail roles. Then those representing the trucking industry and commercial environment, followed by mass transit. And then I'll augment that with the findings from the roundtable discussion. Next slide, please. So I'm going to begin with our overall summary across all of those activities. Thank you. Taking into consideration both interviews and the roundtable discussion of stakeholders, these primary themes emerged, which again reflect their opinions only. First of all, potential impacts of AVs, if legalized, are expected to occur more quickly for rideshare, ride-hail, and commercial trucks in non-public spaces than for short-haul routes and mass transit. Displacement of drivers and lost income were the biggest labor concerns, along with worries around transition plans for affected workers. And potential labor benefits included new AV-related jobs and career pathways, relief for driver shortages in the commercial sector, expanded mobility access, and safer roadways for all. Next slide, please. If legalized, the primary suggestions for AV deployment emphasized an incremental worker-centered rollout that addresses the concerns I just noted. And some of the most common suggestions included using a hybrid model, transition support specifically including increased workforce training resources, worker protections, which included displacement funding, meaningful labor engagement in planning prior to AV deployment, and clear safety and liability rules and standards for AVs. And we'll return to those ideas in just a few moments as I share more details. right, next slide, please. So we'll begin by taking a look at rideshare and ride-hail feedback from our interviews. Next slide. Generally speaking, representatives from rideshare and ride-hail workers in Virginia did not see direct benefits of legalizing AVs. They did acknowledge benefits through a wider lens for the broader workforce and the economy, mentioning potential benefits for expanding transportation options and accessibility for some populations, creating new jobs needed for supporting AV fleets, increasing business and workforce growth by attracting innovative companies to Virginia, and improving roadway safety for everyone, which of course includes professional drivers. Next slide. When we turn to the concerns offered by this group, the most common topic involved job and income displacement for both rideshare and ride-hail drivers, many of whom are contractors. Interviewees also suggested that AVs could attract more and higher value trips, which may effectively reduce the income for professional drivers. And examples of some other concerns included whether drivers would help train technology using their knowledge without compensation, and the use of safety monitors in vehicles as a potential barrier to implementation. There was also a question of whether the use of AVs may force drivers from the market that provide transportation for hard-to-serve populations, such as individuals with disabilities. All right, next slide, please. Interviewees were also asked to share thoughts on how to mitigate potentially negative impacts from AV legalization. Generally speaking, suggestions emphasize taking an incremental and cautious approach that centers on the impacted workforce as a priority. This group shared a number of specific ideas regarding support for workers, which ranged from ensuring safeguards such as transportation support, fair regulations, and clarifying liabilities before deployment. One other important theme entailed the importance of preserving human-assisted transportation services alongside AV vehicles to ensure the availability of high-touch service providers for medical, paratransit, and other needs. In addition, this group expressed the importance of having a voice at the table as decisions are considered, and suggested that high transparency would be critically important to transition success if AVs are legalized. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. Our second group included organizations that represented truck drivers, trucking companies, and commercial transportation. Next. Some, but not all, representatives from this group identified possible labor benefits of AVs if they're legalized. Some positive aspects could include helping address driver and workforce shortages in the trucking industry and creating new needs for skilled workers, job pathways, and career advancement opportunities for roles in maintaining and servicing AV trucks. Other potential benefits for those representing trucking and commercial environments were mentioned, such as efficiency benefits that allow workers to focus on higher value, more complex tasks while technology performs more routine functions, and improving worker conditions and reducing driver stress while maintaining and improving safety assistance. Next. The group did express a variety of concerns about legalization of AVs in Virginia. Job displacement of professional drivers and other transportation workers was a primary concern. Widespread AV deployment could also lead to the loss of stable, middle-class driving careers, especially for those who depend on transportation-related employment. Other reservations were expressed about potential declines in job quality, reduced compensation, and limited transition opportunities. Worker resistance based on those concerns was described as a potentially challenging workforce transition issue. Examples of some additional concerns included risks that the growing demand for specialized staff could further strain worker shortages in the industry, and the scarcity of training, career pathways, and advancement for driver functions. Next. There were a number of ideas for how to mitigate potentially challenging impacts. One recurring theme focused on workforce development for existing drivers and workers to prepare them for AV-related jobs. And this was described as potentially occurring through a variety of partnerships and strategies, including certification and apprenticeships to build career pathways for these new occupations. These representatives also emphasized a need for direct workforce transition strategies with a focus on job transformation, adaptation, and advancement rather than workforce replacement. Like on the passenger side, this group also supported meaningful human involvement in AV operations through a variety of roles, as well as enhancing awareness of those needs. And further, they made the suggestion that stakeholders should continuously monitor AV impacts, if deployed, to guide planning and public reporting. Next. And finally, we gathered input from professionals engaged in mass transit, public transportation, and transportation agencies. As a general consensus, these interviewees see the implementation of AVs as fairly distant in the future. Many are in sort of a wait-and-see kind of posture at this time. However, they echoed some of the possible benefits noted from the other groups, such as the creation of new workforce learning and career pathway opportunities, as well as the support that AVs could provide for repetitive or undesirable types of tasks. This group also mentioned that AVs could potentially reduce worker exposure to hazardous or dangerous tasks as well. Next. And likewise, mass transit representatives also echoed concerns like job displacement and challenging workforce transitions. Preparing their workforce for a transformation in the transportation structure, such as widespread AV deployment, would require much preparation based on their opinions. While public transportation agencies expected limited disruption in the near term, they did express the importance of retaining a human presence for critical decision-making, passenger assistance, and operational needs that may unexpectedly occur in those types of roles. Next. Regarding suggestions, this group raised the point of discussing AV deployment in the context of a workforce development strategy rather than a workforce reduction strategy. Preparing employees through training and development was noted as critical, as well as providing transition support. Representatives in this category emphasized the importance of engaging workers in conversations and planning early on to enhance the understanding of goals and expectations. And to address concerns, they suggested inclusion of labor representatives and unions in communications and decision-making as well, addressing job security, and concurred with the idea to continue assessing impacts over time, as I mentioned just a moment ago. Next. Now, I'd like to turn to our summary of findings for the roundtable discussion. Next. This in-person session brought together stakeholders from trucking, rideshare, ride-hail, public transit, and AV manufacturing companies, as well as the Deputy Secretary of Transportation and representatives from the Virginia Department of Transportation. We posed the 6 questions you see on this slide for consideration by the convened representatives to probe further into our interview findings. Next. Generally speaking, there was broad stakeholder support for a hybrid, incremental approach to minimize negative impacts on labor. That is using autonomous vehicles alongside conventional human-operated vehicles and transportation services, rather than the idea of replacing traditional transportation entirely. Differences in opinions did emerge, though, regarding the ultimate use of driverless models, such that labor expressed the importance of human presence for many roles. Further, the discussion revealed some skepticism or perhaps lack of awareness regarding current AV safety research and evidence. Driver representatives did not support tax breaks for companies that conceivably displace workers, but rather expressed a desire for the AV industry to financially support workforce transition for employees and potential liabilities. The issue of liability for problems, accidents, or injuries related to AVs is clearly a lingering point of concern. Next. The discussion also emphasized workforce transition strategies a great deal and surfaced a practical matter that retraining may require full career change, not just role adaptation in many cases. Participants did raise awareness of various strategies within the body of research and their experience that were interesting to make note of, and I'll mention a couple of those right now. So, for example, some research indicates rideshare hybrid platform models, which are an AV plus human driver operating on the same platform, have shown to stabilize driver earnings, where AV-only competition reduced income significantly for those drivers. Another example from Nashville, where an AV depot created 70 local jobs, and 50% of those were intentionally filled by current or former drivers in roles like technicians and fleet coordinators, maintenance specialists, et cetera. And then we also discussed or heard a conversation about initiatives such as VTTI's Dock-to-Door Coalition, which is an AV-EV Workforce Pathways curriculum initiative focused on AV inspection and mechanic tech roles, and it is co-funded by industry. There was an acknowledgement that transition jobs will not cover the full driver population, but also, and there were expressions by industry that they have an intention to partner with labor on solutions in that regard. And there was also an awareness that existing transit labor contract language protects maintenance workers for technology transitions and may possibly be a model for similar protections through an AV rollout. All right, next. So with all that in consideration from the roundtable, at the conclusion of the session, we asked each attendee to identify the key actions they would recommend for legislative consideration, and those are seen on these two slides that follow. So actions that were consistent overall included things like defining concrete problems that Virginia is solving for before legislative action occurs, establishing a significant test or probationary period before widespread deployment, establishing a hybrid AV deployment model in the proposed legislation. Next. Defining issues and establishing clear rules separately for long-haul and short-haul trucking. Highlighting and expanding evidence on safety benefits of removing drivers from the vehicle. Maintaining the human operator in AVs to ensure safety, and increasing workforce training and ensuring displaced worker programs are fully funded. Now, you may see there that some of those action priorities may be a little bit contradictory because they were coming from different parties in the room. All right, next. And overall, the opinions expressed during interviews and the roundtable discussion showed some consistency across those interviews as well, and they aligned to point towards the findings we highlighted in the summary that I shared near the top of the presentation. So that concludes the information that I would like to share today. We'll be compiling this for inclusion in the full report to the work group with VTTI in the coming weeks.
Well, Ms. Willard, thank you so much for that presentation. You covered a lot of ground there in the time, so thank you again. Well done. And thank you for all the work that you've put in this short period of time, kind of bringing all these folks together and having these discussions. We really appreciate the effort there. Before we go to questions from members of the work group, I just want to remind attendees, we do have a public sign-up sheet for comment. Obviously, you can still speak. If you don't want to get up and sign up, you'll just be last. But I just wanted to note it is over there if you want to avail yourself of that opportunity. Are there any questions from members of the work group for Ms. Willard?
Hello, my name is Nick Jones with the Teamsters Union. My question is, how many labor organizations participated in the questions versus AV company organizations?
The breakdown for, the specific breakdown for the number of attendees in the interviews and the roundtable?
Yes.
Sandra, do you have that information handy? I'll have her check that for you, Mr. Jones, and we'll provide that to you. Yes, it was fairly evenly distributed. We gathered, we used a sort of a bit of a stratified type of approach to try to make sure we were including all three sectors and the AV industry. So it was pretty well distributed from our perspective, but we can get specific numbers for you if you like.
Thank you.
Sure. That will be included in the report.
Other questions for Ms. Willard? Last call. Yes, sir. And please identify yourself. Please identify yourself.
Sure. So your report says that a hybrid rideshare platform.
My apologies, sir. Can you please identify yourself?
Oh, yeah. I'm Kevin. I'm with the DMV Drivers Alliance. So your report says that hybrid rideshare platform models have stabilized driver earnings where AV-only competition significant. What specific evidence or study is that based on? Actually protected earnings, limits on AV deployment, dispatch rules.
That was a comment or an example that was shared by one of the attendees in the roundtable. So that information is, and we were simply collecting feedback and input from those individuals that were represented. So we did not research that further or have additional information for that, but that participant could very well provide that supporting information.
Thank you, Ms. Willard. Other questions? All right, last call. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Willard.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we're going to transition into the public comment. I'll get the sheet and we'll go down in order. Ever been to a Commonwealth Transportation Board meeting? You've heard this spiel before. If I mispronounce your name, I assure you it is not on purpose. I am very, very bad at accurately pronouncing last names, and so if you get singled out, just know it's not on purpose. The other thing I would ask is that you keep your remarks just down to 3 minutes so that we can try and stay within the time frame that we have for the meeting here and also allow everyone the opportunity to provide comment. The first individual I've signed up to speak today is Renee Gibson with Avia.
Is this on? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Hi, everyone. Renee Gibson with the Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association. Just ahead of the recommendations that are being discussed today, the industry wanted to caution against setting up a novel framework that would set the Commonwealth apart from other similarly situated states that already have existing laws that are working well. Wanted to emphasize that without a legislative framework that offers a clear path to commercial deployment, companies will simply not be able to enter the market. In terms of workforce, we think it's important to focus on the benefits that were just outlined in the presentation. We've already seen hundreds of jobs created in Texas, a place where there's a lot of AV rollout going on, thousands of jobs already, direct jobs in California. Not aware of any job loss associated with the rollout of AVs in states that have deployments. In fact, companies are actively hiring drivers, mechanics, operations roles, many other roles. That was just highlighted in an example from Nashville. Studies are showing that AVs are safer than human drivers, And there's some new data out from the IIHS that you could look at that, that proves that point. Additionally, we continue to see consumer experience with AVs being very positive. So in places where consumers are able to take a ride in an AV, they're having a positive experience. Rollout of the industry in Virginia is going to be incremental by nature. New fleets are not going to appear overnight. You'll see companies mapping and testing here for quite some time before they're deploying commercially, but again, they're going to need to have a solid legislative framework that sets up a pathway to commercial deployment. And thank you very much for the opportunity to participate on the work group over the last months. We've enjoyed working with all of you and look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Next speaker I have signed up is Liz Fishback with Stack AV.
Can you hear me? Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Liz Fishback. I'm the Director of State and Local Affairs for Stack AV. Stack AV is an autonomous solutions trucking company based in the Commonwealth to the north, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We very much look forward to coming to this Commonwealth. We are an employee base of just shy of 300 people, so not a large entity in any way, shape, or form. We do have about 30 assets in the form of Peterbilt 579s that we upfit ourselves to retrofit for level 4 autonomous technology. And right now, we are running in 20 states. And if you can do the math with 30 assets in 20 states, as Renee just said, we are not flooding roadways. This is a small incremental movement. Why we look for states to go to in the 20 states that we are in, there is a clear framework. There is predictability. We know what to expect in our partnership with regulators, with lawmakers, what is expected of us as a company, as a technology company, and what is expected of the government in that state. So we really look forward to continuing the work around this in Virginia. We look forward to coming to Virginia, and I just want to thank the working group members, the DMV, the Department of Transportation, for being wonderful working partners this past legislative session all year long, and for always taking into consideration what we have to offer. And we very much look forward to the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fishback. The next speaker I've signed up is Anne Marie Lewis with Torque Robotics.
Good afternoon, everyone. Anne Marie Lewis, Senior Director of Government Affairs at Torque Robotics. Torque has deep roots in the Commonwealth. We grew out of Virginia Tech. We have headquarters in Blacksburg and have maintained strong partnerships with both Virginia Tech and VTTI throughout our 20-year history. We want Virginia to be a state where we can continue to grow and not simply be limited to closed course testing. We therefore encourage Virginia to create an AV framework that includes all vehicle classes, including heavy-duty trucks, and provide a pathway to commercial operations. Excluding trucks would prevent one of Virginia's own companies for progressing towards development in its own, to deployment, in its home state, and it could push further investment and jobs elsewhere. Thanks for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. The next speaker I have signed up is, and I apologize in advance, sir, Nick Steingalt with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation.
Thank you. Apologies for the sloppy handwriting on the sign-up sheet. Nick
worries.
Steingart with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We are a trade association of AV manufacturers, your legacy automakers, technology suppliers, robo-taxi companies, sort of everyone in the automotive industrial base. I'll echo the previous comments. Very much appreciate the attention and the collaboration of this work group. It has certainly been informative, and we're really appreciative to be a part of the conversation. I'm going to keep my comments really high level and just say, as our position throughout has been, that we are supportive of the Commonwealth having an AV framework. The things that we ask for are, Liz sort of touched on this, we want regulatory certainty. We want to know sort of the clear running rules that the industry has, clear, realistic, achievable metrics for moving beyond testing, applying those same principles when we're reviewing AV safety data, or making a determination to pause or revoke authorization. Again, we're supportive of a framework. It shows the companies that Virginia is committed to welcoming AVs to the state, but also builds trust with the public, which is a really important component. Our ask is simply that as you consider all these recommendations, that you weigh whether these striking the right balance between safety and protecting consumer safety while also allowing your constituents to benefit from these really transformative technologies. So I think that was it as far as comments, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Steingalt. The next speaker I have is Allison Pascal with Volkswagen.
Hello, I'm Allison Pascal with Volkswagen, and we are headquartered in Virginia. We also now have an entity that I work for, Moria America, which is doing fully level 4 autonomous vehicles with deployments in ride-hailing, and also we're hoping to also do goods delivery. We're using our all-electric ID. Buzz as the base vehicle. And we've chose to headquarter in Virginia because of the welcoming, innovative atmosphere here. And we have been very involved in this process. We're hoping that Virginia will pass an AV bill, which will give us a path to deploy in Virginia. I'll echo what some of my colleagues from the industry have said. When we evaluate where we go to do level 4 deployments, we must have a path to deployment. We're beyond doing testing. This is a very expensive new mobility space to be in, and from a business perspective, we have to have regulations and certainty that will give us a path to actually running a business. So I think with 12 U.S. cities offering the public fully driverless rides, we're past the point of just permitting testing. So we really do hope that we can come to this market fully. We're offering passenger vehicles that will have more and more technology for personal ownership, and then now we are offering autonomous rides in fleets. We are operating in Texas, in California, and in Florida. So these are states where we feel there's a clear pathway, and there's different requirements, but we're really hoping that Virginia will not take on too many novel requirements. It's very, very challenging to have to modify your business approach in every state. So I would urge Virginia to not go beyond what we already see in other states, especially given where we are in the deployment cycles in the US and globally, that these vehicles are on the roads. They're very welcomed by customers. We're getting a really good response in cities that maybe at first didn't enjoy the vehicles at first. Now they really are grateful that they're adding to jobs and to tourism and making their cities feel very, very tech forward. So we're hoping Virginia will look at other places that have attracted these investments and deployments and build your proposal around how these other states have attracted such deployments. So again, we've been part of the process. I want to note that we did send a letter giving comments on all the recommendations, so that goes into more detail about our positions. And thank you for considering those, and hope to stay very engaged during this process. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, I'll figure it out. The next speaker I've signed up is Matt Foster with the Virginia Trial Lawyers Association.
Good afternoon. Matt Foster with VTLA, Virginia Trial Lawyers Association. I'm smiling at my friends across the aisle because I think they think I'm going to offer opposition to autonomous vehicles coming to Virginia. It's actually the contrary. We're as excited as everyone else about the technology that's emerging and what that could mean for the Commonwealth. That said, we also offer caution, and we offer that caution strictly in the name of the safety and the preservation of rights of Virginia citizens. We recognize that when new industry comes to the Commonwealth, it brings dollars, which means a lot. It brings jobs, it brings opportunities, but it also brings uncertainty. As uncertain as a driver operating a vehicle, there's certainly uncertainty when there's not a driver operating a vehicle. And as certain as there are accidents when a human driver is operating a vehicle, there will be accidents when there is not a human driver operating the vehicle. So all of our issues and policy concerns center around what happens. How do we prevent that as best we can, somebody being hurt by an autonomous vehicle? And if and when it does happen, because we know it will, what happens next? What are the insurance framework? Who's responsible? How do we preserve the crash data? How do we make it available to those who need it? How do we make sure that the citizens of Virginia have a right, their constitutional right, to have their matter, their dispute heard by the Virginia judiciary, which helps interpret and shape our laws? Those are the things that matter most to us in making sure that people are protected. We believe it's a consumer protection issue. Obviously, it's a safety issue. We'll let NHTSA and others and DOT and DMV deal with a lot of the regulation and safety framework. But as far as what happens when there's claims, when there's disputes, how do we preserve people's rights and their access to the courts? That's where we're most bought in on those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. The next speaker I have signed up is Kevin O'Neill with the DMV Drivers Alliance.
Sarah, if you could try and get near one of the microphones, that would help those who are online.
Good afternoon. My name's Kevin O'Neill. I'm a Virginia gig driver and a steering committee member of the DMV Drivers Alliance. I've heard several industry representatives today ask this working group for regulatory certainty, clear rules, achievable thresholds, and a predictable path from testing to commercial deployment. And workers do deserve that certainty too. Before Virginia gives companies a predictable path into this market, drivers do deserve to know what happens when autonomous fleets begin taking trips and income out of the existing workforce. KAG's own report says that rideshare workers are among those likely to experience these impacts earliest. It identifies rapid job and income displacement as a prevailing concern, and it records support for hybrid deployment, compensation mechanisms, minimum payment standards, displacement funding, and meaningful labor involvement before deployment. Yet, many of these recommendations are not actually choices in front of you today. On item 1, if you move forward with legislation, worker protections cannot be something you study after creating the commercial market. On item 8, collect more than crash data. Require the information necessary to measure economic displacement, fleet size, passenger trips, occupied and empty mileage, geography, and the changing share of work performed by autonomous versus human-driven vehicles. Because displacement in rideshare does not require somebody to formally lose a job, it can mean fewer trips, more unpaid waiting, lower utilization, and falling earnings while we technically remain active on the platform. On item 17, please choose Other and expand the proposed worker funding beyond retraining. KAG itself discusses compensation and displacement funding. If companies capture savings by eliminating labor costs, workers should not personally absorb the cost of that transition. On item 22, create the continuing committee, but guarantee seats for working drivers and transportation labor. The DMV Drivers Alliance would love to have a seat on that. Being invited to comment is not the same thing as having representation when our industry is being restructured. And on item 15, preserve meaningful local authority rather than create statewide certainty for companies by removing democratic control from communities who know their streets best. There is a basic distributional question here. Who gets the gains from automation and who is required to absorb the losses? Industry has been very clear today that it wants certainty before committing capital. I am asking you to give working people comparable, if not greater, certainty before you authorize the restructuring of our livelihoods. Make KAG's worker protections part of the legislation, not simply part of the report describing what workers warned you about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last speaker I have signed up is Richard Wilder with Uber.
Hi, yeah, I'm Richard Wilder. I'm the head of autonomous policy at Uber with a strong history of operations in Virginia's transport ecosystem. I have nothing further material to add beyond what's been said in the presentations and the other commenters today, other than to commend your very deeply thoughtful approach to regulating here in Virginia. There are obviously a lot of stakeholders with a lot of different varying divergent views. We deeply appreciate the opportunity to participate in the working group and the ongoing conversations, and like many of our other industry partners, look forward to bringing Uber's hybrid deployment model to Virginia at the right time in the near future. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir. Those are all the speakers that I have signed up. I wanted to see if there were any other folks who were here today that wanted to provide comment. Yes, sir, and please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Benjamin with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU Local 689. Three brief points I want to make. First, as a labor union representing public transit and private transit workers, we do not believe there's going to be any benefits to the workforce with further expansion of AVs. Second, in a general sense of fairness and accessibility, access to transit, no one should have to work twice as hard to have access to reliable and safe transit. AVs may solve some individual short-term problems, but long-term, they're not going to solve the accessibility and congestion issues. We do know what will solve that, and that's expansion of mass transit. We also think it's important that technology companies looking to expand AVs to the Commonwealth should not receive tax breaks, but instead have to pay for the privilege to operate in the Commonwealth. That tax revenue could be used to support mass transit. It could be used to support worker transition and worker protections. Lastly, we brought up earlier at the task force looking to see what our regional partners in Maryland and DC are doing on the issue as well. Both DC and Maryland are exploring the concept of that vehicle mile travel tax. That's something that ATU Local 689 supports. We will note that there is not enough body of study for the VMT really throughout the country. How much revenue that will raise, if it will be effective, and that's something that I think we would ask the legislators as they have conversation with their colleagues throughout the rest of the year and next year in session to really dive into that issue further before fully expanding AVs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there other members present today that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Nick Jones with the Teamsters Union. We have a strong and standing position that there should be no autonomous vehicles on the road without a human operator that's licensed and certified to drive that vehicle. And also, we want to make sure that the state takes into consideration job displacement, tax base erosion, and safety concerns that are going to be coming with this autonomous technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Are there other individuals present that would like to provide comment to the work group? Okay, I see a number of hands. I saw yours first, so you can go, and then we'll go down the line here.
Hi, my name is India Herdman. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor for Tesla. Just want to thank everyone for their very diligent work throughout these months on the working group. I think one of the best benefits of this technology is that it's not a zero-sum game for anyone who has a stake. There are the safety benefits, accessibility benefits, labor benefits, all of which we've discussed. As we look forward to the legislative process here post-working group, I think we all have a very good foundation of where the stakeholders feel passionate. We have great models from other states on what's worked and what has not. So we're very much looking forward to continuing our collaboration with both committees to make sure that we do this right for Virginia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Elizabeth Parker with Troutman Strategies, representing the American Property and Casualty Insurance Association. We're a trade association of insurance companies. We had the opportunity to submit written public comment to the work group and appreciate all members of the work group for all their time and efforts this summer. I just wanted to highlight a couple things in the letter for the benefit of the group. APCIA supports applying insurance and financial responsibility requirements to automated vehicles that are consistent with those for other vehicles used for similar purposes. However, APCIA also recognizes that manufacturers or deployers may appropriately be required to demonstrate financial responsibility to transportation regulators before testing or deployment. This has been said, but just echoing the sentiment that Virginia should build on existing frameworks rather than creating a unique regulatory system for AVs, and any requirements involved in the regulatory system should be tailored to the level of automation involved. Finally, we feel that Virginia should preserve traditional liability principles and provide insurers with appropriate access to information necessary to insure these vehicles. Just to elaborate a little bit there, but reasonable access to vehicle automation information, software updates, claims-related operational data, and other other relevant information, I'm sure similar to what our friends at the trial lawyers would like to get their hands on, would be essential for underwriting, claims handling, and the development of innovative insurance products that support both safe deployment and affordable coverage. So just would like to thank the work group for the opportunity to make a few points, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, I believe I saw Vaco. Okay. Well, you're welcome. Are there any other folks that would like to provide comment before we transition to the final item of the agenda? All right, well, seeing none, again, thank you all for sticking in the time limits and for showing up today to provide that comment to the work group. That type of feedback is always helpful. This will not be your last opportunity, and I'm sure we'll have many of these discussions again in the coming months. So again, thank you for showing up here today. With that, we're going to move on to the final item on the agenda here, which is walking through various recommendations and considerations for potential legislation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Secretary Schul.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thanks to all of you for participating in this process across 2 years and 2 administrations and all the really robust conversations, and especially thank you for disagreeing with each other civilly. That's where we do the really good work. So I'm going to remind you about the mandate of this working group and the next steps before we start talking about the legislative options. Our mandate was to complete our meetings no later than September 1st. We're making it by 3 days, and to issue a report of the findings related to the identified operational, technical, and legal issues to the General Assembly no later than November 1st. That report is to include an executive summary and any draft legislation recommended by the working group. So when we go through this voting, what we're essentially doing is giving guidance on one chapter of what will be a more fulsome report. The report will include the things that were disagreed about, the conversations that were had, the sort of entirety of this process, including links to all of the reports that were referred to, all the safety studies, all of the labor studies, all of that will be in there. There will also be a chapter on labor that combines the detail of the presentation that Ms. Willard just gave you with some quantitative information about the types of jobs, the number of those jobs in Virginia that could be impacted. So all of that will be in the final report, and the draft legislation will just be one of the chapters. I wanted to make that clear. That work of writing the report will take place over the next 2 months. So we are going to next be voting on 26 key choices identified by this process. We are going to be a little procedural here, so bear with us. The way it's going to work is we're going to pull up each option. Then I will ask from the voting members, who I think start with Ms. Lockwood and go down to the end of the table, if there is a motion to support one of the options you see on the screen. You could also make a motion to support a novel option that you could then explain. We'll get a second, we'll vote for who's in favor. If it passes, we'll move forward. If it doesn't pass, we'll see if there's any other options that people want to move for within this topic area. Does that make sense, voting folks? Great. You also can always abstain. After we get the votes of the people in the room for each option, I will call on the 3 members online by name and ask them to come off mute and make their vote. And that is Delegate Glass, Delegate Ballard, and Mr. Harrison. All right. I will also say that we intend this to be procedural. It is y'all's working group. If you have other questions or comments, you can, of course, make a choice to share those. Slide, please.
Clicker's still not working?
Clicker doesn't like me. All right. It's actually the first voting slide, which I think is the slide after this. So, on the first question of does the working group recommend moving forward with the legislation, do we have a motion?
So, Madam Secretary, is it possible at this point for me to say that it's like, I think we should move forward with 2 pieces of legislation, one for the actual implementation and a second one for an ongoing committee, commission, work group to continue work on this, because I think it's going to continue to evolve. But I'm not sure whether or not I can do that because it wasn't in the original legislation, and that kind of implies that y'all would have to have 2 legislative chapters to work on.
There's a second on the work group.
All right, so you've gone for option 4, other.
Yes.
All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Of the work group? Of 2, moving forward with 2 legislations. One with all the matter we're about to discuss, 2 draft legislations.
Oh, yeah.
All the matter we're about to discuss, and then a separate draft legislation about a working group.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Delegate Glass? Oh, great.
Very quiet eye there.
All right. Do you hear me? Yes, I think we're voting on moving forward with both of the draft legislations for this working group. All right. Delegate Glass, Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
Great. Josh, you have everything you need? All right, next slide, please. For this question, the level of automated consideration. Do I have a motion for one of the options?
So moved, option 1.
A second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Wait, a minute. Staff recommendation is for level 3 and level 4?
For level 4 for this legislation and any level 3 specific items in separate legislation.
Yes. Okay, got it.
All right, any opposed? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, next slide, please.
And just to, if I could just step in, just to
Yes.
make sure, I caught everybody in the room as in favor on that. So if that was not correct, please let me know.
All right. The third matter about personal versus commercial use. Do I have a motion?
So just to clarify, commercial use is everything that we've been talking about, ride sharing, delivery, buses, class 7, 8 vehicles, everything except for I own a vehicle and I want to turn it into an autonomous vehicle.
Yes, and for clarity, we would not be banning anything. We would just be only opening up the pathway for commercial use at this time.
So then I would make a motion to accept the staff recommendation of number 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, the fourth matter, to do permitting as a series of phases.
So, Madam Secretary, I have somewhat of a problem now that I've gotten the rhythm here of what I'm looking at in the slide, because some of the manufacturers have identified that their vehicles are not going to start with the outset with a steering wheel or pedals, and so I'm not sure what the role would be of having an individual in the vehicle. So I'm just not sure whether or not, as you start looking at drafting this, does that mean that it could be a pilot phase would exist with a remote driver?
So that's a great question. We have heard from Neuro and some of the other members that in other places, there's been a special accommodation which says you can put the ADS in a different type of vehicle that does have a driving wheel, and then that's the human pilot phase. So what we recommended is that special accommodation and process be made for purpose vehicles. This is also something that's being discussed a lot at the federal level right now, so we think there'll be a consensus eventually on how to do that.
Okay, then I would move to accept the staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
And Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, the next slide, please. On the fifth matter, do I hear a motion?
Okay, so again, just to clarify, it's a choice of 1, light-duty, small passenger vehicle, so effectively ride-sharing, medium-duty, which is kind of local driving delivery.
It's more about the weight of the vehicle, the
Okay.
size of the vehicle. So a medium-duty vehicle is described as a gross vehicle weight of 10 to 26,000 pounds. So think of like a panel van or like a mid-sized UPS or FedEx type of truck. Your heavy duties are your 18-wheelers, your full-size buses, your garbage trucks, that type of thing.
So in doing this, it's like, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with all of them, because that's based upon the earlier motion that we had where it was, it's only the personal part that I think that we need to exclude right now. So I'm not sure if that's like a proper motion with 1, 2, and 3.
We can certainly move that. I just want to clarify that the personal and commercial vote, and it's annoying because the word commercial is used in both contexts, I recognize, that gets into the ownership structure. This vote is about purely the size of the vehicle itself, not what it's allowed to do. So in theory, you could have personal use of any of these types of vehicles if somebody wanted to personally own. I guess an RV might be a personally owned medium-duty vehicle, but they are orthogonal and thus split apart here.
But Delegate Reed, if you wanted, you could choose to make a motion under 5 and just say, I would like to include 1, 2, and 3 if that is the way you would like to go.
That's the motion I'd like to make, Mr. Secretary.
All right, do we hear a second?
As I understand. 3, second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Did you count that? All right, opposed?
I'm in opposition.
Delegate Glass?
Nay.
Nay. Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
All right, what was our count there, Josh?
So I have in the room, we had in favor Delegate Reed, Senator Diggs, Senator Bagby. And then also in favor remotely were Delegate Ballard and DMV, Mr. Harrison. I had opposed Delegate Sewell, Senator Srinivasan, VDOT, and Delegate Glass, with the Secretary abstaining. I may have neglected to record via voting against the motion because you're only one. Okay. So that is 5 in favor, 5 opposed, and 1 abstention. So the motion does, the motion does not.
The negative. So we can move on.
All right, would anybody like to make a different motion for the matter on this slide?
I'd make a motion for 1 and 2 then.
All right, do we hear a second for that? All right, third option?
I think the third option would be to understand that this is the consideration that we need to have continuous conversation, and we don't have a recommendation at this time on those.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, the next matter is AVs with an existing interstate authority. Do I have a motion for this?
I'd like to move option 1.
A second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor in the room?
Aye.
Any opposed in the room? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right. Next item, successful completion of a pilot. There's a lot of words on this one, so I'll give it a few seconds so we remember which one we're talking about. Do I have a motion for any of the options before you? Okay.
So folks, we're saying, do we want to recommend any sort of standard with regard to what would constitute successful completion of the pilot and allow for transference from the pilot stage to the commercial deployment stage?
I think Delegate Glass may want to speak up here.
All right, Delegate Glass.
Oh, I was going to say if I could have an other on this, I think following the room 2 weeks, and that means arbitrary 5 times number may be interesting. So maybe
I'm
we
so sorry,
require-
Delegate Glass. We can't quite understand you.
Can you hear me?
Not really. Should maybe, if she types it, can you read it for her?
I'll read it if she types it.
All right, if you can type it, we'll read it for
We
you.
were hearing some of it, just not the longer remarks.
All right, the chat is enabled. I'll text it to
Thank you for your patience, Delegate Glass. Apologies for the technical issues. Something about the speakers in this room and whatever connection is causing some difficulties on our end.
Come back to that one?
All right, we'll come back to that one.
So I will add, Madam Secretary, is that I guess in looking at this, I mean, if Delegate Glass is going to make a motion, I want to respect that. But it's like, for me, I would say it would be other, because I know that we need to complete a pilot. That seems to be the right thing to do. Where I'm running into an issue is, because we've spent a lot of time talking about what the metrics would be that would measure that. And this is almost one of those things where I'd like to say, yes, do a pilot, but as DMV is writing the regulations, to be able to like determine what are the best practices for doing this. Because I know from the discussions with the Secretary that safety is paramount, and I think that there needs to be a certain degree of trust with y'all being able to tap into that information and come up with something, because it's like, I'm concerned about saying 33% and it should be 35%, or it should be 25%. So it's like, it's the specificity that is, no pun intended, really has me wrapped around the axle.
Madam Secretary, do we know what other states' level has been, so we could be somewhat consistent with what other states have done?
Yes, and Mr. Goodall, you can jump in here. There's not a huge amount of consistency among the states. Some states have nothing. Some states have a rules of the road requirement, and some states are still developing it. Mr. Goodall, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, anyone can correct me. I'm unaware of any state that has a crash rate standard like that we're proposing here. Normally, it's they submit a safety case, they're kind of monitoring things, and it's a bit of a judgment call. There's no like hard standard that we're proposing.
Delegate Reed made a good point, but in an effort to move this forward, I would make a motion for option 1.
Well, the option has been made. I do want to acknowledge that Delegate Glass is trying to, is disabled at this time.
Okay, that,
She just messaged me.
yeah, the external folks can't do a Teams chat sometimes.
They
That
said
is Microsoft limitation
via
that we
text.
found.
She just messaged me that she would like to go with the other option, require an ODD-specific safety case, minimum representative miles, multiple performance measures with different thresholds by vehicle class.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have Delegate Glass, Delegate Ballard.
Can I clarify what we're voting on right now?
So I think Delegate Glass, as I understand it, was moving, let me thank you so much.
Because I think maybe Delegate Reed proposed option 1, and then Delegate
Yes,
Glass had a different option. So I just want to make sure which one we're voting on.
I proposed 5, which was let DMV figure it out.
All right, so I'm going to try to consolidate this. Delegate Reed proposed 5, which was let DMV figure it out. I think Delegate Glass then added on to that by saying DMV should figure it out with an ODD-specific safety case, minimum representative miles, and different performance measures for different vehicle classes. And that was guidance on what DMV should take into account when they're figuring it out. And if that sounds right, you can, Delegate Glass, you can text Delegate Sewell.
And Senator Diggs was the one who referenced item number 1, Delegate Ballard.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Let's-
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank
I'll vote aye.
so let's redo that. Let's start with the motion from Delegate Reed with the additional guidance tacked on from Delegate Glass.
I would second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Delegate Ballard on the Mr. Reed's motion,
As amended by.
as amended by
Aye.
Delegate Glass. I did not get that. Did you?
I didn't hear that. Delegate Ballard, could you speak up again, please?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you.
Please let the record reflect that I'm abstaining.
So I think that passes for item 7. All right, thank you for all of that high-tech collaboration. All right, item 8 is the safety data required on an ongoing basis. We lay out the items here. And for clarity, all of these are subsets of existing data collection in other states. So none of them are novel.
And these are currently required by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration?
Yes, so the options kind of build on each other. So option 1 is just what's the federal requirement. Item 2 is a part of what California collects plus item 1. Item 3 is essentially more of what California collects plus item 1. And then item 4 is what's called where's my brain? The Open Data Specification for Real-Time Collection of things like micromobility, MDS. So none of these are novel. The item 4 is not required for AVs by any state, but in some cities is required for scooters and such things. And item 3 and 2 are California subsets, plus the federal. I should say the feds will be collecting the federal data no matter what.
Madam Secretary, what is the real concern in item 4? I mean, to me, that given our focus on safety, that looks reasonable. But what is the real concern?
For the real-time data collection has been brought up in contexts which are more about traffic incidences, so understanding the location of vehicles for real-time traffic operational interaction, or if things like, I don't know, if the vehicle stops, if the vehicle's near an emergency, there's the ability to know how many of these commercial things are out and about in what place. It has been deployed for scooters in many cities across the US, and this framework, which has been suggested but not adopted by DC, because DC hasn't completed their process yet, sort of builds on that existing framework for scooters and other shared bikes and that type of small mobility option.
A follow-up, Madam Secretary. But this is possible by the AV technology? There is no impediment on the technology?
So with anything where you're collecting real-time data, there's always a connectivity, but I think the standard is written to accommodate that. There is a privacy concern on this, just like there is a privacy concern on sharing real-time data from scooters, and that needs management.
And any clarification, this would be shared with the agencies or the police or not outside that ecosystem, right?
Correct. The police, not necessarily.
If there is an incident.
Yes. So when this would, if this is selected, the DMV, working with VSP and others, would develop the sharing framework and what would be the appropriate rules, what are appropriate for traffic management, what would be appropriate for emergency response, and what would be appropriate for sending notifications about this roadway is about to flood, that sort of thing.
So I'm going to make a motion that we do number 3, and that anything beyond that could be included in, again, this ongoing work group that we talked about, because I am concerned about the real-time, the privacy, the proprietary data and everything. And I believe that if the federal government in California are doing 1 through 3, then that's a good place to start. So that's my motion.
Second.
All right. All in favor of the delegate's motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I object. Only because I don't want to talk about like this. I understand what you're doing, but just going through the questions, I don't want to talk about the work group at this time because I think that's last. And I also kind of want to go back to question number 1 at the end, just because I think that we're all talking about something very different as far as what that legislation will entail.
All right, so
So
we'll
I will
save
say-
extra minutes for the work group at the end and come back to this specific question.
Or we can, well,
I think it has already passed by a majority.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So yes, we'll have I think the question, I think we're going to get to the work group question later, so I just don't want to bring it up in this context.
Got it.
So I'm a no.
We do need to poll our 3 remote
Yes.
people on this one.
All right,
Well, just really quick to make sure, Delegate Sewell, I'm following you kind of clearly on this. You're saying at this moment, you don't want to say what is or isn't going to happen in that work group because you haven't yet talked about that work group. And so saying the work group's going to keep looking at that is premature at this point because we haven't kind of gone through what we think it should do.
Yes, because there is a question that specifically asks about a commission. So I think question number 1, well-intended, David, Delegate Reed, was to talk about like making sure that we were walking and chewing gum at the same time. But I think that for the context of what the work group will do or a commission should be left separate from this point on.
got it. All right, Delegate Glass, on the motion proposed by Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, great. All right, next, item 9 on the process of revoking or suspending a permit. Do I have a motion for any of the options?
Motion for option 3.
Do I hear a second?
Madam Secretary, can you explain number 1, unconstrained discretion for agency?
Yes. That means the agency would write its own guidelines on when it can revoke or suspend a permit, and y'all do not give them any guidance in legislation about it. Options 2 and 3 say that the draft legislation would have guidance on the limits of what DMV can do in revoking a permit. We still have a motion for number 3.
I'll second number 3.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose too.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain, yeah.
2 abstains. Mr. Diggs abstains. All right, Delegate Glass?
Nay.
Delegate Ballard?
Abstain.
DMV, Mr. Harrison?
Abstain.
Over 5?
Of 4 abstentions, VDOT, VSP, DMV, and Delegate Ballard.
And Secretary Donahue.
And the Secretary. Thank you. So
Madam-
5 abstentions.
Madam Secretary, I know the way we're moving through the process, but I kind of have I'm reluctant to move forward with saying these are recommendations with so many abstentions and no votes. When we still do have actual time, we just can maybe put an asterisk around these that we can't find consensus on.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Well, are other members comfortable with that path?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Item 10, making permits fleet level as opposed to individual level. Do I have a motion for this?
Adopt the staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Harrison?
Aye.
Great. Item 11. This, we all agree, I think it is everyone, there's no question about the presence of a first responder interaction plan. This vote, we will have them required. This vote is about the way the guidelines are approved. So do I have a motion to move forward with one of the options presented on the slide?
So option number 2 is 1 and VSP approval also required, is that correct?
So option number 1 says we create collaborative guidelines between VSP, DMV, and anybody else who needs to be involved, but DMV does the approval. Option 2 says VSP keeps on having input on each individual application, as opposed to giving input at the beginning for a process that DMV runs.
I will make a motion to adopt number 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains?
VDOT abstains.
Thank you. Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate
Nay.
Ballard? Oh, sorry, Delegate Glass, did you have something else?
Aye.
Oh, great. And Mr.
Nope,
Harrison?
nay.
DMV abstains.
Okay. Item 12. Proof of financial responsibility. Do I have a motion for any of the items or options presented?
So option 1 is same requirements for AVs as for other vehicles in their classes, and you could stop there and. 'cause
These
you-
were just examples.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adopt option number 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? VDOT abstains. Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
So may I ask a question on this? So
course.
for example, if I'm more in favor of option 3, I just simply would vote no on this and that's it? Or do I vote no and make like a alternative motion?
You can vote no and note what you prefer, and we will put it in the notes in the report.
Perfect. Vote no. I prefer option 3.
Great. Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, item 13.
I'd like to move option 1.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? All right, Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, we are halfway done, you guys. Let's keep it going. All right, item 14.
I was feeling better until you noted that point.
Now we're all jinxed.
Item 14, safety certifications.
I'd like to move option 1.
Second it.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right. Item 15, local regulation. Do I hear a motion to support any of the options?
Madam Secretary, can you please explain this one more time if you don't mind? So option 1 is if they're operating as taxis.
Yes, so previously, I think we voted to say that autonomous vehicles will not have their own operating authority. They will instead be the autonomous flavor of lots of other categories of vehicles that exist. For most commercial vehicles that exist in Virginia, there is no right to local regulation, except for taxis. So what this says is if an autonomous vehicle is operating as a taxi, thus it could be locally regulated because all the rules that apply to taxi more or less apply to it. So if we are silent, but as we have already done, voted for using existing authorities, this would be the implication. Only AVs operating as taxis could be locally regulated and all the rest would be state regulated.
It will be stated. So the option 1 would be that.
So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt number 1.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? All right, Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, item 16. I'll pause for a minute to let us read it and then ask for a motion.
So, Madam Secretary, I'm going to make a motion for 1 and 2, or 1 or 2, because again, we've had this discussion where there are some manufacturers who are operating diesel-heavy trucks, and so they are paying taxes on road fuels, and there's an interstate compact on how that is remitted back to Virginia. We now have a highway use fee, so if there's an all-electric vehicle that's operating in Virginia, we're collecting taxes that way. We're at a different point than we were when we initially approved electric vehicles, which were heavier, operating on the roads and paying nothing. So we're at a different point. So I'm still not sure what the right answer is here, because I don't know what we're allowed to mandate as far as depoting in Virginia or registering in Virginia, because what I don't want to see happen is a fleet of 100 vehicles that are operating in very wealthy Northern Virginia or Richmond suburbs and then going and parking in Maryland or DC, and we lose all the revenue, but we encounter all of the road expense. So I'm not sure how to solve that right yet. So I'm not sure if it's 1 and 2 together or 5 other.
So I think what you're proposing is a version of 5 other that is mix 1 and 2, taking into account the interstate operating compact for heavy-duty vehicles.
And ensuring that we are getting justly compensated for vehicles operating on Virginia roads so that we can continue to maintain and build new roads in Virginia.
So I will rephrase this as a motion for option 5, which is a mix of 1 and 2 and other methods to ensure registration of vehicles operating in Virginia.
Yes, I'm good with that. Thank you.
And Madam Secretary, that includes requiring depots in Virginia.
Yes, that's a mechanism to create registrations in Virginia.
Thank you.
All right, so Delegate Reed, that's your motion?
Yes, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Delegate Sewell voted.
Okay,
I support option 2.
okay. Got it, thank you.
VDOT abstains.
VDOT abstains, any other abstains?
Abstain.
Okay. Delegate Glass?
Nay.
All right. Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
DMV abstains.
All right, moving on to item
But I
17.
think we can go back,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I move option 2.
All right. Do I have a second for option 2?
Yes. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstains?
Abstain.
Delegate Glass on the motion for option 2?
Nay.
Sorry, can you do that one more time?
Nay.
Ah, thank you. Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Abstain.
Anything else on this? I don't know if we've gotten
Josh,
to
can you read the
5.
vote total out?
So on that one, I have the agencies, the 3 agencies and the secretary abstaining. I had Delegate Glass as a no. And then I had 4 in the room in favor, Senator Srinivas and Delegate Sewell, Senator Bagby, and Delegate Ballard, who's remote. I don't think I captured Senator Diggs or Delegate.
And I'll abstain also.
Madam Secretary, I think this goes in the pile of careful consideration as we move forward.
All right, everyone okay with that? All right, item 17. This is a different part of the process. This is a fee, not a tax, associated with getting the license from DMV.
Madam Secretary, what do other states do with this? Because I fully get the point that it's like there needs to be some way for DMV to be able to cover the cost of these, and we do this in other industries as well.
Yes. Every class of commercial vehicle that DMV authorizes has a fee that covers the costs of DMV and any sort of partner agency administration that goes into it. On this topic of other states, I don't know, Mr. Harrison, if you know the answer to that, or if anybody else knows from California, Texas, or any of the ones who've been leaders in this.
I know that this is Patrick Harrison. I know that there are differences among the jurisdictions on this. Some do charge fees, some charge no fee.
Yeah, I will say there have been proposals underway in DC and Maryland, who we've been talking to the most in this process, that would be higher than the cost of their DMV equivalent administration. But again, those are proposals. They have not been accepted. Please identify yourself.
With Arrow, I would just say that Nevada charges. Thank you. Nevada charges approximately $100 for an original or a renewal, and you also have a $17 fee per vehicle. California's permitting just went up to approximately $3,100 or $3,200. Again, for originals and major modifications, it is $70 for adding up to 50 vehicles and 50 drivers, I think. And those are off the top of my head. I don't believe Texas charges. So
the way we set it in Virginia for comparable commercial licenses is the DMV, and in this case, there would be a little involvement from VDOT, a little involvement from VSP, calculate what it will take to administer this program, having to make some assumptions about the number of permits that will come through, but they do that reasonably, and they do this all the time. Then they calculate based on that what the per vehicle or per fleet fee would be. So that is the way it's done if, for example, there was a new type of truck that we were going to regulate in some way.
Madam Secretary, I have a clarification. So on 3, who would come up with the fees, additional fees for finance worker training?
There would be ongoing discussions with all of the labor and elected officials involved to try to understand the magnitude of what types of programs we'd like to fund.
If I may, based on the estimates you make. Okay, I prefer 3, just for the record.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
I would love to make a motion on 3.
All right, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As one?
Any opposed?
No.
All right, we have some opposed. Any abstains? All right, Delegate Glass.
Aye, but can you hear me? Am I still muffled really bad? You can hear me well? I just wanted to make a comment on option 3.
Okay.
I was hoping that, it should go with option 3, that we were able to make a dedicated audited transition fund tied to that actual AV deployment. And that is periodically, just based off of looking at the interviews, I think in the interviews it said that displacement and loss of income were the dominant workforce concerns. And specifically, there was a recommendation for training support and displacement funding. Just saying that for the record, but aye.
Okay, we have an aye. Delegate Ballard?
I vote no with a preference for number 1.
Okay. Mr. Harrison?
Abstain.
On that one, I have 4 abstentions, the agencies and the secretary, 2 opposed, Delegate Ballard and Delegate Reed. Opposed, and 4 in favor, Senator Bagby, Senator Srinivasan, Delegate Glass, and Delegate Sewell.
We can take another motion if anybody wants for a different option.
So, Madam Secretary, it appears that this one doesn't have to completely go away and be tossed in to carefully consider as we move forward. But we could actually do vote that we collectively support one, and then we can also continue to talk about how we fund the training.
You can make that a motion under option 5, other.
Consider that a motion.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Wait, so just before we vote, can we clarify, like, how we're deeming those two as different?
So I think what Senator is trying to do is confirm that we definitely want DMV's costs to be covered. So by saying we need to continue discussing, we don't mean that. That is something everybody wants to do. What's going to be continued to be discussed is the fees to help impacted workers.
And my interpretation would be that that could just come from general fund revenue or some other legislation or budget initiative.
But we can't make that assumption if we don't say that that we want additional fees to finance worker retraining for impacted drivers. It sounds like this would still be a conversation.
And I think that's what Senator Bagby was saying, is that it would still be a conversation. And it's probably so complicated that it needs to be severable from the initial discussion about paying for DMV fees for doing this.
So is that a commitment to doing something to retraining impacted drivers? Or are you saying that you'd like for it to just be a conversation? That's what I'm trying to clarify in my head.
How about this?
I'm sorry.
We could break it into 2 votes. So what if we voted first on option 1, that their fee should at least cover agency costs, and then we can have a separate vote on additional fees?
Madam Secretary, I like that because my understanding was the law enforcement training is also very important. The second option, that includes law enforcement training. I mean, at least to me, that's important. Of course, my motion was to do 3, which is still my position. But I like your option, Madam Secretary.
Secretary has pointed out that actually with the people who expressed preference for option 1, we have, yes, with the combination of option 3, which includes option 1, and people who said they only supported option 1, we have effectively voted to approve option 1.
No, I was saying we don't need to take 2 votes if we do this because we've already voted on 3, which is the topic at hand that we were going through, right? That was 4, 3, and 4. So we have voted on that, right? And that was that vote.
Okay, can we hear Senator Bagby's intent to continue conversations? All right. So let's do a separate vote on option 1?
I'm confused.
Okay.
What just transpired? But
So-
I will follow along. I'm happy to follow along.
But I do want to add to Senator Srinivasan's point is that, okay, if we're starting fresh, I mean, number 2 is like, okay, is it the intent for it to just be law enforcement training or first responder training? Because we've had discussions about first responders. How does not just law enforcement, but firefighters and EMS respond? And in some notes that I had been looking at for myself, it's like, okay, I know that some of the industry have been taking the initiative to do those training, but when we actually start institutionalizing that, are we expecting Tesla to do a separate set of training and then Stack to do training, or does there need to be one set of training for local first responders when it is going into their locality? So I think we probably want a more holistic approach as opposed to an individual vendor approach, because if it's based upon every individual vendor, then I think it just becomes really complicated.
So Delegate Reed, I think just hearing you talk, option 1 would have a fee that would cover DMV's costs along with the much smaller cost of VDOT and state police. That would allow for vendor training to take place if they decided they wanted to do that. Option 2 would cover everything in option 1 and then would provide training to the law enforcement done on a holistic basis whenever there was people permitted to operate within their jurisdiction. And that would be paid for by the fee.
And in my opinion, I think it needs to be number 2, but it needs to be first responder, not just law enforcement. And it needs to be holistic so that we're not just hoping that each vendor does it.
The intent is a simplified central training.
Something that would go in, I mean, because as they are given the authority to operate in a particular geofenced area, you know what the jurisdictions are going to be. And that's when they need to get trained. We don't need somebody trained in, I'm just picking Louisa County, if like nobody is going into Louisa County. But we clearly need it if they're going into Loudoun or if they're going into Richmond, and it needs to happen at a timely manner. And I think we just, I mean, I trust them all, but we just don't need to leave it to the, their good graces. It's like, oh, we're going to do training. We need to be sure that training for first responders is addressed. Because that goes back to that whole overarching concern about safety.
Madam Chair? And the reason why I said we should just vote on one and then possibly law enforcement training and the other part of it separately is because I believe that what we're doing today leading up to session is illustrating where there's strong consensus. Folks can lobby to make amendments to the legislation leading up to session or during session. But we're just trying to, I think what I would love to see is this is the sort of bones of what this legislation looks like, and then have 3, 4, 5, looks like we have already 3, this may be the 4th, I believe, things that we really need to have conversations on leading into it, so that it's not this big conversation during session. We've kind of narrowed it down. So that's just explaining why I think voted on one and then making note that there are other considerations.
I'm good with that. I mean, I think that articulates what we're trying to achieve.
Following the advice of Secretary.
I was saying just to move what you would discuss, sir.
No, I will move option 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
This is Delegate Sewell. I oppose because for question 15, we just said that there's going to be no local regulation. So I think that brings into question where law enforcement stands in this process. And we don't address the worker component.
Are there other nays? Any abstains?
Not abstains.
VDOT abstains? All right.
Mr. Secretary, may I ask a question before we go to the next vote?
Wait, I'm sorry, we're
We're
not
not done.
We're not done with this vote yet. So I have VDOT abstaining. VSP prefers option 2, is what was said.
So they're abstaining?
So I guess that's abstain
Abstain
with a
with the note.
preference for 2.
Just want to be clear, a vote is not an expression for something else. It has to be one of these things, so abstain.
Yep, and then we need to poll our remote folks.
All right. Delegate
on this
Glass?
Stay.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Abstain.
All right, Josh, can we take questions and comments?
Yes, if you
All right.
can- you can pause for
Quickly.
questions and comments.
That was my question, is whether non-voting members of a working group can add context to any of the questions.
I think if we solicit context, you're certainly welcome to follow in, and I leave that to members of the work groups to when they want to ask for it.
All right.
Madam Secretary, are we finished with that vote?
Yes.
I just cautioned us of, like, not making decisions on parts of these going forward, because it's going to be a lot of piecemealing during session. And I think the goal for us, those that have been in the room during the off-season, is to let the balance of the legislature and administration understand what parts we do agree on. And so when we say I support one, but I want the other part law enforcement training, blah, blah. I think it makes it tougher when it's not included. And I don't know how in the heck y'all are gonna communicate this. But I think it's, I don't know, I just think it's gonna be tough to communicate it, especially when we're trying to pass the legislation during session.
I think we will work hard on communicating it, and you can take a look. But I think, that as you sort of eloquently pointed out, there needs to be a section that says, these are places where there was real dissent or feeling like more information was needed. And we'll just be extremely explicit about that, so that it is very clear. And in this example, we'll say it was clear that everybody had consensus about, or the majority approved, fees covering DMV and other state agency administrations. And there was a lot of discussion about what to do beyond that.
Yeah. Well, and this is for example, number one, are individuals that voted no or opposed to
Yeah, I know you're getting that.
state agencies' costs being covered? I mean, voting no appears that you're opposed to state agencies being covered.
Madam Secretary? I'm happy to clarify. I supported option 3. The jump was to option 1. I noted that I was fine with option 1, but I also would like to bring into consideration basically everything that's still in number 3. So I just wanted it on the record that I support option 1 and a host of other items that I feel are not included, and therefore, for me, I don't think that addresses my intent for this piece of legislation. So that could be a sticking factor for me in the future.
Madam Secretary?
Senator Bagby?
And her position is actually my position as it relates to the support of the options. But again, I think what we're trying to do is to get the bones of it together, and then it will be incumbent upon us to lobby to make sure that those other pieces are in. This is not the final version of this.
So if I could add, I think we're probably all in violent agreement that it's like we clearly want number 1. There seems to be an agreement that some type of first responder law enforcement training has to be done, and it's determining, and this becomes the part that gets worked out later, determining by who and when, and then there's clearly an agreement that we have to determine a way to address impacted drivers and workers, and we're all committed to that. It's just that oftentimes being able to like define that in a single sentence becomes really very difficult.
Yeah.
And so again, I think that we're all in agreement. It's just like to what Senator Bagby has said, what becomes the bones of the legislation that we've asked y'all to put together, which is probably clearly number 1, and then we as the elected leaders have to take that and figure out how we do number 2 and number 3 as we're going through the entire legislative process with input from you and with input from other stakeholders as well. So again, I think to clarify, it's like no one is opposed, as far as I can tell, against how we're going to address impacted drivers. But it's like, it's just really difficult to do it sitting right here around the table now.
I think we're good.
I also just feel kind of obligated to note, guys, that what we're voting on now is what will be a chapter of a report. And then all of you all who are duly elected to represent the people will have the opportunity to introduce or not introduce any piece of legislation that you see fit with whatever things you want to include in it, right? At the end of the day, this is going to be a skeletal structure that's not necessarily skeletal, but a structure that is going to be present, that any of you may pick up, modify as you see fit, not modify as you see fit, or introduce as you see fit. So like, there's going to be plenty of opportunity down the road for some of these other issues.
It would be appropriate to say it's going to be the chassis.
And this is the last thing I'll say about this, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, is whatever crazy patron there is out there would want to be able to say that there was consensus on this part, and this part when they're presenting it. And that's why I'm saying that's why these votes matter because it's an illustration of where the support is as we move forward. Not that this is the end-all be-all.
And Senator Bagby, I think with the combined different votes we have on number 3 and number 1, there is a clear majority that have said at least number 1 should be included in that, so we can make that statement in the report.
Yeah. And speaking of clear, I think everyone is clear what we are on this one, so I'll be quiet.
All right, I think we are good on this one. I feel like we have captured y'all's intent in our brains, and we will transmit that in the report in various chapters. All right, let's keep on talking taxes. Retail sales and use tax. We have 4 options that we've laid out as simple sentences, and then, of course, you can abstain or move for something different.
Madam Secretary, can I ask for clarification? So currently Uber and Lyft, when I take a ride, I pay a sales tax.
You do not.
You do not. The Uber operator, I mean, somebody pays a tax on,
No, sir.
No.
no.
That is a service, and services are not currently taxed under Virginia's retail sales and use tax regime.
I move for option 4.
Do I hear a second? Do we have any other motions?
Good, that was good.
Okay, wait. All right, we've addressed this kind of, sort of before, where it's like, I want to be sure that Virginia's getting revenue for building and maintaining roads and that these vehicles are operating on. And if they go into a particular class of vehicles, then we just need to ensure that they're paying their taxes just like other vehicles in that class.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. I would roll with Senator Diggs on this because at the end of the day, this is going to be resolved on floors that the top 3 floors of the building. And so any vote that we take today won't even matter.
Was that a second to Senator Dix's
That is,
motion?
hold on while I call Senator Lucas and Delegate Torian, and I'll tell you how I feel about it.
Commentary.
Okay. So we can
So-
leave
so-
this as unresolved.
So we've got was that a second then, Senator Bagby, for number 4?
No, not at all.
Oh, no. He's not seconding.
That's a strong number 5.
All right, well, I think it's time to move on to 19.
All right, move on to 19. Mandatory arbitration.
Madam Secretary, quick clarification.
Delegate,
I'm sorry.
Delegate Ballard, did you have something?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't know if this was the appropriate time for me to make a motion.
Sure.
Okay. I move that we adopt number 1, option 1.
On mandatory arbitration?
Correct. We're on 19, aren't we?
Yes. Seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Can you just summarize for me what it is that we're doing here?
Yes. So there was a version of an AV bill passed from the Senate last year that barred mandatory arbitration in certain clauses. So mandatory arbitration is common in tech. It avoids trial. So that Senate bill did ban mandatory arbitration clauses, which is a ban of a ban on trial. So the first option is to put in language that was similar to what was passed in the Senate, but was not in some of the House versions of the bill. 2 is to remain silent. That just means, again, because we're adopting every AV as a type of for-hire vehicle, whatever applies to that type of for-hire vehicle will flow through. or other commercial vehicles, not just for hire. 3 is find something else, a general contractual principle, and 4 is refer to another consumer protection law as part of this.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, the clarification I had, I'm supporting 1, but the clarification I want to ask you is, how many states have mandatory arbitration, how many don't? Just for me.
For AVs?
Yeah.
I do not believe any state has talked about mandatory arbitration in the context of AVs. There are lots of conversations about mandatory arbitration as a thing for lots of types of consumer issues.
Broader.
Yes.
Thank you.
We were kind of in the middle of a vote. We had a motion from Delegate Ballard for number 1, which was seconded by Delegate Sewell, and I heard Senator Srinivasan in favor of that. I have not yet recorded any other votes on that.
Others in favor of option 1?
I'm going to abstain.
All right. I'll do. Any nays? She was already in favor.
Josh Douglas was in favor. He didn't have that noted down.
Okay.
Obviously moved it, so he should have.
Okay. So let's do the no's again to make sure we get them all.
No, with a preference for number 2.
Got it. All right. Any abstains?
Me, abstain.
UDOT abstains.
All right. Delegate Glass?
Delegate Glass abstains.
Thank you. Delegate Ballard, you moved. Mr. Harrison?
EMB abstains.
All right. Moving on to option 20. I will remind folks that this, as voted on earlier, this draft legislation will only treat level 4 vehicles and above. This is a topic in level 3 that would have to be dealt with. This question for level 3 would have to be dealt with in separate legislation as we've currently been recommending it.
Skip this.
You can. You can.
Mr. Delegate Ballard, I'm sorry.
Delegate Ballard?
If now's the appropriate time, I'll move option 2.
Don't have a motion?
Delegate Ballard's moved
Second.
number 2.
Second, yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains?
Abstains.
All right. Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
EMB abstains.
All right. Moving on to privacy law, there has been, all of these slides are essentially the same as what we looked at in the last working group meeting. There's one difference on this slide I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of. We amended option 3. We had something that said previously refer to the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act. In this, we amended that to say refer to it and create lower thresholds for AVs. Right now, that only kicks in for 100,000 consumers, which makes sense when you're talking about an app, but it would be a lower number to make sense for an AV. So that's a change. I think that's one of the only changes since we saw all these slides a month ago. So with that, do I have a motion for any of these options?
So my preference is number 2, to rely on existing privacy laws.
Would you like to move?
Yes, I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? All right. Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Abstain.
Thank you. All right. Next is Autonomous Vehicle Committee. I will let us read it, and then if anybody has any comments or questions, we can take those at this time.
While we're reading this, I should like to note, this is different than, in my opinion, the work group that was mentioned at the beginning. This is like a technical committee of industry and other affected stakeholders that will discuss issues. This is, with all respect to the folks in the Senate and House, this is not something we would ask you to participate in.
You're not required.
I move for
So
one.
let me clarify the difference between like the work group and that, because I do think, Doug, to your point earlier, this is intended to be a more technical type of forum where we're bringing these issues back and discussing it with people who are in the operations of that industry.
And it might create reports that we give to a working group.
So, Mr. Secretary, when we were talking about earlier, if someone has their authorization to operate suspended, where does that go for them to appeal to get it reinstated? Does it go here? Does it go to some other judicial thing that you do in VDOT?
So under, if I don't remember if we voted in favor of the DMVs, oh, we did their authority.
Yeah.
So under their authority, all actions DMV takes are subject to an internal review of whether or not they've followed their procedures. And then they're secondarily, if someone still believes that those procedures were not followed, they can take that to the circuit court.
So if I'm trying to clarify, this is going to be much more technical in nature. The work group that I inadvertently created in the very first question is going to be more policy-focused.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, this could advise on revocations, but we are not proposing that this group votes on revocations. Because in my mind, it's delegating certain kind of executive authority to a kind of group of stakeholders that are appointed.
I move option one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
Okay, now we have, the next two are related. So we are talking about two types of remote support. The first that we're going to vote on is remote assistance. This is not driving the vehicle remotely. That comes next. This is looking out of the eyes of the vehicle and either telling the person inside who may have called the remote assistance something, asking a question, or saying, oh, vehicle, you're confused, you've stopped, I think you should drive over there and park, though the vehicle then drives itself to park. So first, we're dealing with the location of the individuals providing the remote assistance, and then in the next slide, we'll deal with people who may be actually doing remote or backup driving. Is that distinction clear?
Just to drive it home, no one in this slide is operating the vehicle. They are looking at things and talking and directing the ADS to do something, but they do not move a vehicle.
Do I hear a motion for any of these options?
I move option one.
Second? Anybody online?
I'll make an alternate motion to do option two.
Do I hear a second for option two? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains?
That abstains, yeah.
All right, Delegate Glass for option two.
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
DMV abstains.
Thank you. All right. Item 24, this is for remote drivers and also presumably backup drivers, though backup drivers I think would be a little more straightforward. But to the extent that remote operation of the vehicle is happening, we have recommendations on requirements.
I'd like to move option one, and so what I'm moving here is that they need to have a license, they need to be qualified to operate whatever type of vehicle that it is, and they need to be employed by the company.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate
Aye.
Ballard? Oh, Delegate Glass, did you have something to say?
Nope, I was just speaking louder and just to make sure you heard me. Aye.
Okay, great. Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Item 25 is a list of things that will need to be defined as collected during our research. We did not write all of the definitions on the slide. Do I hear a motion for this?
Make a motion to support the staff recommendation.
Second.
And other definitions as may be necessary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
Great. Item 26, a requirement that AVs have indicators on their title and registration that they have autonomous capabilities.
I'd like to move option 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Delegate Glass?
Aye.
Delegate Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Harrison?
Aye.
All right. Comment?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Pat Lawrence with Virginia Trucking Association. If we could just go back to 24 real quick. I know it's already passed, but just one point I want to clarify was the permittee possessing a license. Would that also entail having a CDL?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's a vehicle that requires a CDL.
Just want to be
Yeah, so that the third bullet there is intended to capture that point. So whatever special requirements may or may not be required for a vehicle, you must possess those to be the, remote driver of said vehicle.
Thanks, Secretary.
So said differently, I will never be the remote driver for a large truck.
Right. I should barely be allowed on the passenger.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We're only 10 minutes over.
Miracle.
So just want to thank you all. Delegate Sewell, do you have something you want to?
I hate to be that person as we're ready to leave, but I want to go back to question number 1.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We actually did tell you that, so my apologies.
No worries. I just want to clarify what exactly we are deeming legislation to come forward. Are we, Delegate Reed? I just want to clarify.
So I'm hoping that out of that there will be the legislation that was mandated for the work group, which would be for the implementation of autonomous vehicles, which is the greater portion of the 26 items that we just went through, and then also draft legislation for doing a follow-on work group to this that would have more sustainability and maybe the same or different membership as a way to ensure that we are continuing to address the policy issues in a way that we can bring subject matter experts together.
You want us to draft both?
If that is, that would be my preference, yes, to at least give us the bones.
I think what Delegate Sewell is trying to ask is what specifically are we asking this work group to do? Is that what you're kind of getting at there? And so what I've heard you say, Delegate Reed, and I'm going to say this back to try and facilitate us landing or otherwise on this concept, is we want a group that includes members of the General Assembly where the agencies and other stakeholders will have the opportunity to come back in, give updates on who's going through the process if a bill is passed, how that is working, present on safety data, usage data, and other things of that nature. I'm assuming we would also bring back any things we, as the agencies, see as challenges that exist within the framework we've so duly just thought through and voted on. And then obviously stakeholders have the opportunity to say whether they really appreciate all the work of the agencies or if they think there's things they could do differently.
That would be correct, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Secretary, just to clarify too, if we're saying legislation, are we saying, you said implementation, so that does not mean testing, in my opinion. You're saying you want to test and to establish a way forward on autonomous vehicles.
So-
I think that is a clear, that's a sticking point for me. So
Well,
that's-
when I say implementation, it's the legislation that we've just gone through with these 26 items. This is how we would define a way forward for Virginia. So I'm
just going to be contrarian and say I oppose, just in case.
I'm sorry. That's why I left the house. I'm lost. What are y'all down there arguing about?
The legislation that was the recommendation in this legislation packet that we just discussed did say a pilot phase will be required before.
Yes.
So this working group, you can give us notes on what you want to include, can include results and findings from each pilot phase as well.
Madam Secretary?
I think the discussion was when we voted on the very first question in this packet.
I'm there on that part. What is it that we voted on? Do does Delegate Sewell or Delegate Reed not want included?
I am trying to get it on the record that I would like for a pilot phase to occur. And the way that we're talking about legislation generically, it does not say, it sounds as if the legislation will note a pilot phase and implementation. I deem that as two separate pieces of legislation. So that's why I am saying that I am a no vote.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure that I was clarifying
So-
that for the record.
So, Madam Secretary, I understand now. I think what I voted on, or I thought what we were voting on, is just to have a, is that it, right? Just that was what, voting on a work group. What that work group, I mean, I'm just voting on a work group, period.
I blame Delegate Reed.
Okay, so this very first vote was supposed to be, are we moving forward with legislation in 2027 for autonomous vehicles? So if we just leave it at that alone, then that, a yes vote, if we'd voted no, then we would have just skipped all of the rest of the stuff. We would have been done at 110. Okay, so I had said that, yes, I wanted to do, number one, we want to do autonomous vehicle legislation in 2027, period, end of discussion, and we'd like to do a separate piece of legislation in 2027 that would be a reconstitution of this work group going forward.
Period.
To continue to work on AV stuff. So it's-
Period,
yeah,
right?
two different things. But then everything that we did after that, 2 through 26, is really saying, yes, we want to move forward with autonomous vehicle legislation in 2027.
One clarification, Delegate Reed. I think if I'm reading Delegate Sewell's concern is that legislation only for pilot phase? It doesn't include implementation, correct?
And I'm going to say, based upon the questions that we had here, we said we do want a pilot phase as part of the implementing legislation. It's not do a pilot, stop, and then come back next year, meaning 2028, and do a second implementing legislation. Because we went through, one of the questions here said, do you want to do a pilot phase? What were the requirements for that? What are all of those type of things? So that pilot is built into the overarching implementation of question number one.
So would there be a situation where we look at the pilot data and we say, okay, we need some more time before implementing, before it's a go?
Senator Srinivasan, based on I'm talking in the theoretical now, so we're in a pretend world where this is July 1, 2027, and the bill, with the way you guys have just voted, has passed the General Assembly. So this is not a world that exists, but if
Agreed.
that is the world we're living in,
Agree.
what would happen is if Nick Donahue's ADS company has in the pilot process and it has gone to DMV and we are operating in that pilot stage. If we pass whatever is determined to be successful completion of the pilot there, then we would be able to move into full autonomous operation. If DMV does not like what they have seen, we would need to repeat the second grade. So just like, that's kind of the concept. So we're saying it all slightly differently. So I think like that, this legislation, if as contemplated, would have a pilot phase that any company with its ADS technology would need to pass to whatever standard we put in there. And again, I think the standard that was voted on was that DMV will make a determination based on best practices, considering the operational design, I forget what the third D stands for, vehicle-specific standards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you do that, you then can move into full autonomous operation with the legislation as we've talked about it.
And if I can just add to that, Secretary, and borrow from your metaphor, that's on a per vendor basis. So therefore, some vendors might pass out of the second grade and move on, and others might have to repeat the second grade.
And sorry, my oldest kid just started the second grade, so that's why I'm picking the second grade.
So
At this point, I want to stay in the second grade and let y'all go to the third. Because whether the legislation passes or not, we still will want a work group, right? So I just don't understand how the work group is associated with it. We want it to be a pilot. I don't understand why, like, I feel like we want a work group regardless.
Yes, we do want to work regardless, but it's my understanding that this work group currently expires at this particular event. And so we do not have a mechanism for having ongoing joint House-Senate discussions
Yeah.
other than our transportation
And I
committees.
get that. I'm trying to figure out what the problem is.
I don't think that,
Because, oh, okay. All right, perfect.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think we're good. And again, I will say again, thank you all to this. There's a whole legislative session coming up.
Really?
Yes.
I thought this was it.
Nope. Sadly, you'll have to come back.
So before we go, can I just take a second? I want to really say thank you to you and also the secretary and everybody who has participated, because again, while you were very magnanimous and said that, this was a 2-year process, we really did not do much in this in 2025. And so I really do appreciate the way that you have brought everybody together and have been really very focused on this, because again, I think we've made a lot of progress and we've uncovered a lot of additional issues. And to Senator Bagby's point, there are still going to be times that we're going to have to work through this during the legislative process. But I wanted to say thank you to you and your team for all that you've done to be able to get us this far.
Thank you. And I will echo that for the VDOT and DMV staff and the VSP staff who did a ton of work, and our VTTI, VTRC, and KAG consultants. Thank you all. We're adjourned.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now I can stay.
Happy Friday, y'all. Enjoy your weekend.
Sorry.
Drive safely.
Thank you all so
I just
much.
said nice things
Really
about you,
appreciate
so
all
did
your
you hear
time,
it?
engagement, commitment, and we're done.